Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. Give me a thumbs up or say yes in chat if you can hear me. We're going to go ahead and start with the program here. We've got a lot of people on the call today. We know that it's been a pretty tumultuous time these last few days, a lot of uncertainty going around. So we really just wanted to get a call together to get all of our small business owners together, and this seemed like the safest way to do that. And we wanted to ask some of our leadership to join us. And we've got our representative for the area, Drew Ferguson, on the call with Andy Bush, one of his staff members. I'm going to unmute him in just a second. But first, I just wanted to give you guys a quick housekeeping overview. We are going to have everybody muted until somebody is allowed to speak. We'll unmute with 76 people on the call right now so far. That's really the only way that we're going to get through this and not just be speaking over each other. If you'd like to ask a question, you can post questions and chat while this call is going on in the chat down below if you're dialed in on a computer. And if you're not, if you're just dialed in on the phone, you should just be able to hear everybody speak, but you won't be able to actually send messages. You can log in using the Zoom app on your iPhone or Android device. First, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy, who is our Chamber Interim President, to give us a quick hello. Kathy, I'm going to unmute you. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for participating. We know that our small businesses are going through a lot right now, and we want to find out how we can help. So this is really a fact finding for us. What is the best way that the chamber staff and the chamber resources can be working for you? Is, you know, even from publishing list of restaurants that are doing curbside pickup, drive-through, to maybe retail businesses that are have online shopping. Do you want us to direct customers potentially to online shopping? So we're here to learn from you today. This, I'm sure, will not be our last one of these, but we want you to know that your chamber is here to support you, and we're behind you, and we'll do whatever we can to help you get through this time. So thank you for participating.
Thank you, Kathy. Let me go to Drew here. I'm going to unmute you, Drew. Rep Ferguson, are you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking time in your busy schedule to join us on the call this morning. I wanted to get to you first just to give you an opportunity to give us an update, if you could, on what's going on the national and state levels with regard to small businesses and supporting us during this difficult time.
All right. Well, listen, first of all, thank you for hosting this call. We think that, I appreciate the chance to be with y'all and during these difficult times. A couple of things. I want to kind of break my comments down into a couple of phases. One is on the healthcare component, and the steps that are being taken to prevent the spread, and then talk about what we think the response is going to be related to small business and the American economy. So first of all, I think it's important to remember that all of the steps that are being taken right now to quarantine or to increase social distancing and limit exposure is to slow the transmission rate down. One of the things that we have seen that has happened in Europe and to some degree in China, because they did not slow the transmission rate down, there was a spike in the number of cases among the most vulnerable in the population, particularly the elderly, and that spike created a situation where their healthcare systems had been overwhelmed. If you contrast that to what's been done in South Korea, where they used best practices learned during the SARS outbreak a few years ago, they flattened their transmission curve, and it allowed them to have the resources, and meaning hospital beds, therapeutics, all of those things needed to treat that vulnerable population. It allowed them to spread that out over a period of time. So just keep in mind everything, all the drastic steps that we've had to take up to this point have been based off of data that show that the single best way to prevent the spread of this is by social distancing and restricting travel. That obviously has a really tough impact on small businesses. Really, it will have a tough impact on the entire economy. And so there's a real balancing act that Congress and the administration is trying to do right now, which is how much do we need to do to slow the transmission rate without crashing the economy? Because as we all know, lack of economic activity would have an increased negative impact on people's lives. So keep in mind, I say that to say, the steps that are being taken really are about slowing the transmission and truly advise everyone to adhere to the recommendations coming out of the CDC. If we want to do this in a voluntary manner, we need Americans to comply with what's happening here and the recommendations. But if we don't, then unfortunately, I think that you may see additional restrictions coming, and that's not what any of us really want to see happen. However, we do have to slow the spread of this. And I think that what we're going to find is that over the next few weeks, you're going to see an increase in the number of cases being reported. Part of that is because better testing is coming online in record pace. But that's going to drive more of how we restrict travel and activities in certain areas. So that's the medical component of it. The business side of it, one of the things that we have all been focused on is the impact to small businesses and the realization that when you tell people to stay home and avoid going to restaurants, hotels, restricting travel, it really truly has the most immediate impact on our small businesses. So the approach has been, how do we help people stay employed? How do we help businesses make it through this very difficult time? And I think that there are going to be two major focuses here. Number one, there has to be an infusion of cash very quickly. We got to increase the liquidity to small businesses in a very quick way. So it appears that the route that the Treasury is going to go down and that Congress wants to go down is to have money available in the form of low to no interest loans very quickly through the Small Business Administration, keeping in mind that we're going to have to change the regulations because normally that is a very cumbersome process, as many of you know, with the underwriting and the administration has said that they want to relax that tremendously so that cash can get to businesses to do things like make rent payments to continue to buy, to continue to cover those costs. So that's one component. The second one, and probably the one that we think is going to be the most impactful, is going to be around how do you maintain employees and pay them while you basically have no revenue stream. So there are a couple of components here. Number one, if someone is sick, then they will get 2 weeks mandatory paid sick time. And also, if they are required to stay at home for a period of time, taking care, either they're sick themselves or having to take care of a family member that's sick, or quite candidly, if they're having to stay home and take care of children, businesses will be able to get what is essentially a refundable tax credit directly into their accounts. And there's a mechanism. I've sent Kathy Tilley a sheet on this. Kathy, this came from the Ways and Means Committee. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but we want to post this because it will give some instructions or some ideas of how we intend on this program to work. So in a nutshell, if you have an employee that meets these requirements, and every single one of us will, then you will have the ability to have what is essentially a refundable tax credit coming into your account to pay that employee's salary for the duration of the national emergency. I think the anticipation says is that this would expire December the 31st, but we will always look to see what the economy needs and what small businesses need. The final thing is one area that has been pushed tremendously is the need for ideas. We have already had several of our constituents and small businesses call and say, hey, if we did X, this would be good for small businesses. We are taking those ideas, we are sending them to the Ways and Means Committee and the Committee on Energy and Commerce and to the Treasury. And some of these ideas we think will actually become part of this process. So as you have good ideas, we want you to submit those, and we can work on a process to either get them to the chamber and then the chamber get them to my office, or you can go directly to my official webpage in Congress. So we want those ideas. We want the feedback. We know that each community is a little bit different and everybody's going to need something just a little bit different. But keep in mind, I believe that the response from the administration and Congress is going to be very focused on number one, keeping Americans safe, and number two, keeping this American economy going, so that when it comes back, we're stronger and better than we've ever been. And Brandon, if it's okay, I've got just a couple more minutes before I've got to jump off. I'll be happy to take a few questions. I can't see anything. I'm on my cell phone and not a computer. So if there are questions that you want, that you can see that you want to ask, I'll be happy to address those.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. If anybody has a question for Representative Ferguson, if you could type it in the chat, I'll be happy to field those to him for the next couple of minutes.
And keep in mind, any of these questions that you get or comments, we would like to have those in our office, and we can, we can work to address those. If I don't get to all of them, or we don't get to any right now, or you have ideas that come up in the future, again, get that information to us so that we can address those.
Okay. I haven't seen anything coming in the chat yet, but I was wondering on the time schedule, any idea of how long it's going to take to get this through the Senate and for the president to sign the bill so that things will get moving? I know it's everything takes a little bit of time.
So the House passed the bill on Friday, late Friday night, early Saturday morning. We made some technical corrections that we knew that we were going to have to make, but we felt like it was important to get the bill passed with an agreement with both Republicans and Democrats to pass the technical corrections piece. That was done yesterday and passed through the House. I would anticipate the Senate taking that up today or tomorrow. And then the president said he would sign it immediately. What I have been most impressed with in this has been the speed at which Stephen Mnuchin and the Department of Treasury has developed the rules around this. I think it's going. Keep in mind, we're talking about an entire country that we're having to do this for. And I would think that the indications is that this has got to come online very quickly. I can't give you a specific date, but I would say that I would think that Mnuchin would have the authority to start writing the regulations today. And from what we've seen, he's already got those outlined. If that happens, then I think the program could be stood up. The reason we're doing it through the Treasury is that it's the quickest mechanism to make this happen, as opposed to trying to do it through state unemployment or through the Social Security Administration, which were two other ideas that had been floated. The IRS has access to the bank accounts that you make your quarterly deposits into, and that seems to be the most seamless way for the IRS to distribute those refundable credits.
Thank you so much for joining us, Representative. We appreciate everything that you do for us, and we certainly appreciate you dealing with it at this time.
All right. Well, listen, I look forward to the next call. We'll make every effort. I'll make every effort to be on future calls as you need me. If I can't be, I will make sure that we've got someone from my staff. We know these issues are important, and we know that quite candidly, we are going to have a stretch here for a few weeks of people being very uncertain, not knowing what the future holds. But I do believe in this. I believe that we can band together. I believe will pull together. And I think it will be American ingenuity and drive that brings the world back from this. And I feel very strongly about that. So thank you. Thank you for what each of you do. And I've got to jump off the call. But again, thanks for the chance to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. We appreciate Representative Ferguson being on the call with us. We also have our City of LaGrange Mayor Jim Thornton. Jim, I'm going to unmute you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I was wondering if you'd like to give us an update from the local level very quickly on really the impact of business that the latest recommendations have come down, how they affect the local business.
Sure, and I will be brief. I certainly appreciate Congressman Ferguson being on the call, and he obviously has great information from the federal level. We know that a lot of what we're doing on the local level is following the lead at the state and the federal level, and I certainly hope that everyone has had a chance to review the latest guidance that the CDC and the Department of Public Health have been putting out, because that is what we are reviewing at the city. In fact, I was just in a meeting at 9 o'clock this morning with our city manager and city attorney, and we were going over the latest that came out just yesterday from the CDC, which changed some of the guidelines. It's still the same basic principles as it relates to the social distancing, but definitely some of the specifics are changing. As the congressman said, this is a very fluid situation. It's unprecedented. There's not a guidebook here for us to follow. We're all just trying to make the rules on the fly, if you will. But we have some really well-respected experts at public health. We're fortunate to have CDC just up the road in Atlanta, and so that's what the city is looking to for guidance, and I think that's what all of our businesses should probably be looking to as well. We have called an emergency meeting of the City Council this afternoon at 5 o'clock. Although it's a public meeting, as all of our meetings are, we are encouraging people to watch it on Facebook Live rather than coming to the City Council chambers for the specific meeting, just to again avoid the large congregation of people. But everyone's welcome. But I would encourage everyone to watch it on Facebook Live. The city's implementing a few local practices. We are very sensitive to the needs of the small businesses. As many of you know, I myself am a small business owner. I have a law firm with 8 employees, and we're trying to navigate through these same issues that everyone else on the call is trying to navigate through, of how we stay in business, how we keep serving our clients, et cetera. Some of the things that we're trying to do at the city, we have announced that there will be no utility disconnections for non-payment of services. That will be of some benefit to our residents who maybe are out of work or otherwise struggling with, during this time. But that would apply also to our small businesses. Now, obviously, the meters continue to run, and there will be accrual. And depending on how long this goes on, that might become a big number. So we're not encouraging people to not pay their utility bills, but we are recognizing that there may be a need for us to defer some of that. That's one thing that the city has some control over, because we are the primary utility provider in the city of LaGrange: electric, gas, water, sewer, sanitation. So there will be no disconnection of services pending this emergency time. We are also going to delay all deadlines. So if a small business has not yet purchased its business license, I think that business license renewal date is April the 1st. We are extending all the deadlines that apply under the city code. Anything that we have control over, anything we have discretion over, we're extending all of those. Probably we will extend them for 15 days beyond the termination of the emergency. So whenever the declaration of emergency is lifted, then we would have those deadlines 15 days beyond that, and we may end up revisiting that depending on how long this goes on. So we will be continuing to provide all services to our businesses and residents. So if we go into a shutdown mode, which we have not, and let me be clear, we have not gone into a shutdown mode, but if we do go into a shutdown mode, we will discriminate between two types of services, what we would call required services and discretionary services. So the required services will be police, fire, water, because our water plant has to keep operating to keep the water that you're drinking purified, water pollution control for the water treatment. We're going to continue residential sanitation. We will continue animal control because we anticipate there could be animals running at large that we need to control. So we're going to have some required services, but then most of the rest of our services we would consider discretionary and we'd send our employees home. However, they will be on call. And so if we have electricity goes out in a storm, all of those folks will be on call and we will bring them forward. We are probably going to close City Hall today. We're going to close to the public just to discourage people from coming. So much of what you can do now you can do online, but we also just quite candidly with this group, I mean, we're concerned about people who might be exposed coming to City Hall and then exposing all of our city employees, and then we would be in a total shutdown if we had our police or fire or other emergency personnel exposed. So we're going to be closing City Hall to the public, and we will obviously reevaluate this as things go along, but that's part of the reason we're extending all the deadlines. Don't feel like you have to come in and pay. Don't feel like you have to come in and renew your license. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to prohibit public gatherings. Now we don't have authority to do that in private businesses, and we're not telling private businesses what to do. Private businesses have to make their own decision for themselves, but following the CDC guidance, we are going to be prohibiting public gatherings such as on the square or at the parks and so forth, to try and again support the president and support the governor in their call for social distancing here on the local level. So those are a few of the things that we're doing at the city. I can assure you, Brandon, and all of the callers, that we are very mindful of the impact this is having on not only our small businesses, but also our large businesses and manufacturers who at some point may be involved. Certainly our small businesses, retailers, restaurants, and just our general residents. And we're trying to do everything we can to be sensitive to that. But as the congressman said, the first goal here is to make sure that that we're following best practices, the advice of the healthcare experts at the CDC and public health, and that we're doing everything we can to minimize the spread of this disease. So that's where we are, Brandon. I appreciate the chamber putting this call together, and I'm certainly glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you. If you have questions, put them in the comments, please. And really quickly, I'm gonna go over to Mike Spate. Mike's on the call with us from the banking side of this situation, and I asked Mike to quickly talk about the SBA loan program that was just announced, or at least a couple of days ago, I guess it was announced. Mike, are you with us? Can you hear?
I am. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Can you speak to this?
Good deal. I'm going.
Loan program?
Yes, sir. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. First thing that I would like to encourage everybody to do, talk to your banker. We're in uncharted waters. We're talking about deferments. We're talking about skip of pays. We're talking about different ways to do lines of credit that we haven't done in the past. So something that might not have worked 3 months ago, it may work today, but be open with your banker and talk about what it is that you're going to struggle with and what you think your needs are going to be. And then, adjust your business model if at all possible. I had a call yesterday from a customer that told me what they were going to do to offset some of the lost revenue that they were going to have in one of their business lines. So again, look for those types of things. Our leaders sent out a video over the weekend called Entree Leadership. It's a Ramsey Group video, not endorsing Dave Ramsey, but it's pretty good stuff. And I emailed that to Leslie. If anyone would like a copy of that, you can reach out to Leslie, and Leslie can email that to you. But it just talks about small businesses and how we can adjust quickly and adeptly, and how we can help ourselves as well as help our community. Quickly on the SBA disaster loan link, I've got Joe Little in here with me along with Sharima Curry. I do know that there's been $50 billion set aside for the small business customers. States are having to request access to this. My understanding this morning, we have had 2 calls today already. My understanding this morning is that there are 4 states signed up for it now. Georgia is not yet one of those as of 7:30 this morning, but I'm sure that's in the pipeline to get done. But that small business disaster loan will be used heavily, I'm sure. Joe, do you want to mention anything on small business disaster loan?
On that topic, from what we're hearing, there's not a lot of information that's out there yet. Only because being passed through Congress, it's still got to be passed down to SBA, and then SBA has to figure out how to implement it. What we've been hearing is we know that the SBA fee is going to be waived on all these loans going forward, and we don't know how long that's going to be. Sounds like probably through the end of the year. And then as far as interest rates, as the president mentioned, low interest rates, we have not gotten guidance on that either yet. But again, because of just the quickness this is happening and SBA being involved, it just has not been pushed down to lenders at this point.
Brandon and group, another thing that we're dealing with, as the mayor mentioned earlier, and Congressman, is we're talking about social distancing. We're talking about, we started today closing our branch lobby. We're still running 3 lanes of drive-through, and we'll take customers as we need to sit down and talk to them. But at the end of the day, any time that we expose ourselves to something that's non-essential, if I expose myself to something that's non-essential, then I have put every team member that I come into contact with at risk. So as the mayor said earlier, we don't want to get that way. So we're taking some preemptive steps that some people may think are maybe not necessary. We think they are. We're also talking about how to handle child care reimbursement for those that are impacted by that. So just lots of conversation. But thank you so much for letting us be a part of this, Brandon.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you taking the time to join us on the call today. Did anybody have any questions for Mike and the banking industry, for Mayor Thornton? We can answer any questions right now if you'd like to ask them. One question that I do see here is any guidance for hotels and hotel employees? I can imagine they're one of the harder hit groups. Mayor Thornton, do you have any guidance for the hotel industry in Troup County?
Don't have anything specific. Obviously, the hotels are going to be very significantly impacted by this time. They're going to be not only because of their own operations in the social distancing capacity, but more to the point because of a lack of tourism and a lack of travel. As we all know, our largest hotel in town, Great Wolf, is closed for the rest of this month. But I know some of our other hotels have not closed, but their occupancies are going to be tremendously low, and that will continue. We're sensitive to that. We recognize that may, on the licensing side, the utility side, the hotel motel tax remission side, that may result in some delays, and so we understand that at the local level. I'm sure that when the federal government does come out with some kind of stimulus or other type of relief package, like what the congressman referred to, that the tourism industry is going to be front and center, not just hotels, but also airlines, cruise lines. All of those industries are some of the most seriously affected by this. Quite honestly, the effects are so significant and so widespread that it truly is going to require a national response. It's not something that I think the local or even the state governments can adequately address because it's such a significant issue across the country.
Thank you, Mayor Thornton. So right now, I'd like to go to the next phase of the call, which is, pull up the agenda here, general question and answers and brainstorming on how we as a community can help each other weather this storm that we have ahead of us. We're looking at several weeks of social isolation and distancing to limit the spread of the virus. So what are some ways that we can help each other, and what are some of the concerns and issues that the small business community has with your particular businesses? So if you could, in the comments in the chat, send some questions, concerns, send some ideas, and I'll read those to the group, and we'll start asking people if you'd like to talk. You can send a message in the chat. I'll unmute you and let some people have a chance to give some ideas. So any questions for the group or suggestions and ideas on how we can help each other in the business community in Troup County? And especially how can we at the chamber help the business community? One of the things that Renee sent in some ideas from what other chambers are doing, and I'll share some of those with you while we're waiting on some ideas to come into the chat. One of the ideas was for the restaurant industry, a couple of other chambers have put some websites and Facebook posts together with lists of all the local restaurants that are offering family meals to go and pickup options or a curbside pickup. So that's something that we're looking into offering on the chamber Facebook and the chamber website is a list of all of the restaurants in the area that offer those, so that we can encourage the people in Troup County to still patron the restaurants while following the social distancing guidelines as best we can. So nonprofits, all the nonprofits who've had to cancel fundraisers and closing doors to admissions. Any ideas on how to help with the nonprofits? Can the chamber send an email to all of the membership? I'm going to unmute Leslie and see if I can find Kathy. There's Kathy. So I've unmuted you guys just so you know. As far as can the chamber send an email to all the membership with resources and links to help small businesses, we certainly can.
Yes.
We can compile all of the suggestions from this, everything that Representative Ferguson and his staff have recommended. And I've been getting several emails with some suggestions that are fantastic, that we can put these resources in an email and send them out to everybody that's registered as a participant on this call. We'll also send those out to just the chamber list in general, which is quite a large list. So we want to share any of these ideas with everybody in Troup County so that we can help each other.
So please send us your updated information so that we can make sure that we have the most updated information to put out there. Send it to Leslie or myself.
Yes, I know when we sent the email for this call today, we got a lot of bounces. So if you have updated your email, please shoot Leslie, or I guess Leslie probably the best person to contact. Shoot her an email with your new email address so that we can update that in Chamber Master and get the correct information so that we can get this out. But we'll also, of course, post it to the Facebook Chamber page, and it will be available there. So if you follow the Facebook Chamber Facebook page, then just make sure you're following that and looking at it regularly. Does anyone else have any comments or suggestions. The list that I've got for suggestions is pretty long. Let me go back up to it and see what we've got here. If there's anything that I can call out really quickly. Offering discounts for pickup items is one idea. Obviously, as Mike said, shifting your business model might be an option from an in-person type business. If you're a business where people typically come into your store, if there's any way to offer that as a delivery service or offer it as a curbside pickup to encourage patrons to still come in but not congregate, not sit in or browse in a place. You can utilize Facebook for that or your website. Obviously, educate your customers on what you're doing for the sanitation and how you're keeping your employees and your customers safe. If you've updated your sanitization practices, if you're going through and cleaning regularly, educate your customers on that. Use video to reach your customers. Encourage people to tip, and that's really important. I just used the Publix delivery service for the first time the other day. And it's an amazing service. If you hadn't used it yet, they will just bring your groceries to your door. And there was a $15 coupon on Publix's homepage to use it for the first time. But I made sure to tip the delivery driver quite a lot so that we can encourage these people who are, out in the community and you could say risking their health to provide this service, that that it's worth it for them and their families, that they're making enough to get by on. I've got a long list of resources here that I'll share in the email that were sent. And if anybody else would like a chance to speak, I'll be happy to unmute you. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up in just a minute. I do have an email I'll share with you. Andy Bush, who works with Representative Ferguson, I'm going to share his email address with everybody in the call, but we'll, of course, include Representative Ferguson's, both of his office information and his staff information so that everybody has access to that, and a follow-up email to all of the attendees and all of the chamber members.
Brandon, I don't know if you still have me on. I don't think you have me muted. This is Jim Thornton. Can I speak for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, I just noticed that a couple of comments on the chat had related to the city's grant funding applications, and yes, those are extended as well. So, I mean, all of the processes that are in place through the city will be extended. Obviously, I don't have any authority over any of the county or state processes, but I would hope that they would likewise follow suit and extend some of their deadlines as we go through this. But that's something that we'd have to request of them. But yes, all the city deadlines will be extended. And a couple of questions about the nonprofits. And yes, when we talk about small businesses, this was marketed, I guess, as a small business call, at some level. And that's why I was referencing small businesses. But, all of the things we're talking about, I think, apply equally to small businesses, nonprofits, and to large businesses in our community. I mean, we recognize that different people have different capacities, but we also understand that our nonprofit sector is going to take a significant hit through this, and that's something that we will have to look for ways to be of assistance, when we come out of this, crisis. Right now, we just don't know if this is a 15-day or if this is a 60-day process. And so we can't really determine exactly what some of those responses are going to need to be. But I assure you that the city council and myself and city manager are all aware of these issues, and we'll do what we can on the local level to assist. And then finally, somebody made the suggestion about the chamber doing a petition to the state. And I think that this would be a good opportunity as a chamber member. Now I'm putting on my chamber member hat. I think it would be a good opportunity for the chamber's government outreach group to do just that and to submit some formal ideas and suggestions to Governor Kemp, to our legislative delegation, obviously to Congressman Ferguson, and then to the local authorities about ways that businesses have been impacted, nonprofits have been impacted, and how those governments can respond. And I thank you,
Mayor Thornton. As the small business chair this year at the Chamber, I am the person that, the committee member that would do that outreach and working with the Chamber staff. So you all should have my email address in the registration confirmation you got. If you have any ideas for legislation and you want to funnel them through the Chamber, I'd be happy to compile those and send them to Representative Ferguson and our senators' offices. If you'll send those to my email, I'll work with the Chamber on preparing those, and we'll get that sent up the chain. We do have a Atlanta Capitol drive-in and a DC fly-in that we do every year to meet with our representatives. The Atlanta drive-in was obviously postponed due to this situation that we're in, but we are still reaching out with our local and national representatives, state representatives, and we will continue to maintain contact with them and have a two-way dialogue. So any ideas or suggestions that you have for policy changes or really anything, send them to me, and we will definitely pass those along as a single voice from the Chamber. One of the things that Renee said on the chat, I think is a wonderful idea, is to promote gift cards, gift certificates for some of these local businesses that we may not be able to attend physically right now, like the art museums and the nonprofits and small business retail shops and restaurants that maybe have had to close their dining rooms for the safety of their customers. We can get shop at home gift certificates or local, individual gift certificates and gift cards to these places. Gift memberships like Hills and Dales is not, they shut down, I saw yesterday, but we could still gift a membership to some of these locations. So consider doing that. And the Chamber can probably put together a list of companies who offer gift certificates, gift memberships that we can promote as well. So any other ideas, be sure to share those with us. And I got a message there from Barbie that can we hold weekly conferences during the situation? I did talk to Kathy earlier. Kathy, I don't know if you're still unmuted, but we have discussed having this call. If you felt it was beneficial, please let us know. We can do this weekly throughout the situation if it's beneficial to everybody.
Yes, completely. We would love to do it. We'd love to stay in touch with what our members need. We'd love to stay in touch with ways that we can help. So absolutely, just let us know that this was beneficial and that you want to participate. And it's something easy that we can do. And we're all in this together, and we together can come up with some great ideas. So yeah, we'll absolutely do it weekly.
That's going to wrap us up today. I want to thank everybody for coming. It's really unprecedented. We had 101 people register for this call. It's clear that this is an issue that's on everybody's minds, and we want you to know at the Chamber that business community is important, and together we can come up with solutions to the problems that we're going to face over the coming weeks and months. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to especially thank Representative Ferguson and his staff, Mayor Thornton, and I think we may have had several other local leaders on the call. I know we had some mayors and city council and county commission people that I saw registered. I want to thank everybody that came from the business community and the nonprofits, and we will compile a list of all the recommendations and all of the suggestions that came out of this call and all of the links and contact informations, and we'll share that with the entire Chamber and membership. Thank you all for coming.